this into your personal projects. So at least that's my aim. I'm going to be jumping from one thing to another. Also, since we are not too many people, whatever your questions are, just either keep them at the end, or even if something is not really clear on what I'm saying, you can even interrupt me, right? So, okay, the title of the presentation is really UX research, like why, how, and are you sure? Normally, you know, we hear and we read a lot on how we should test our creations, our developments, our products, and in the end, our services. But we know that sometimes we fail to do it because sometimes we don't have time. We don't really trust the use of it, and so on. So hopefully at the end of this talk, you can apply each method that I'm going to just describe very superficially into the right scope of your project, right? Okay, in the end, UX research, you know, the main aim is to know, to understand user behaviors, needs, and motivations of our users, of our target population, and so on. And that is done through feedback, task analysis, and observation. In a nutshell, that is the real aim of UX research. We want to understand our users, and by that we're talking about motivation, how they do things, how they actually accomplish it, and what we use is different techniques, from observation to task analysis, and feedback in general, right? Okay, this field is not new, even though it seems that it has emerged in the last 5 years, right? This kind of quality assurance engineering is as old as industrialization, right? So at the beginning, in the factory, you had people testing the products, at least not to kill the user, right? So first one is safety. Second is the functions that our product has are right in place, so our car goes, you know, our product actually works. And in the end, our product is durable, right? That is really the limit of quality assurance engineering to human factor engineering / ergonomics or / user experience, right? So at the beginning, we want a product or we want a software that is ergonomic, you know, that it adapts to how I read things. Yeah, I want a mouse that adapts somehow to my mouse. And finally, we want something that we like, right? That is likable, and in the ultimate term, in the last term, we want something that it can become emotional, so it can make my life good, right? I know this sounds a bit even ridiculous, but I'm going to give you 2 examples, right? This is not really just positive psychology or wishful thinking, right? The picture on the left is a children cancer hospital, right? So really emotional design of those hospitals make a difference, you know, the children in the family, on the family children life, right? And the second picture, sorry for the quality, it's the best I could get, is about the enabling community foundation project, based especially in the US, where children with no limbs are given last design like superhero prosthesis, right? So that's how, in the end, we can design will not save the world at all, but design can have a real good impact. And at least with those 2 examples, I just want to make sure that I'm not just living in cuckoo land. All right, a very foundation in almost every UX research presentation, I witnessed this quote in a different sense or the other appear. It's by Henry Ford, right? The creator of kind of modern factory work or modern auto industry. And he said, if I had asked people what they wanted, they would have said the faster horses. So why to ask users or what users what you want? You kind of craft prototype and then you test it with the user. You look at the user, and in the end, you might give some solutions, you might give some developments, right? But this question is really one of the foundations of the UX debate around that. So why to ask users? Because in the end, we deliver what we design, right? But of course, with the right approach, that statement can be challenged, right? Okay, I'm not going to get into talking about software development. What is the right way, agile, lean, whatever. I'm just gonna separate the development process into three very simple chunks, like easy, during, and after, and that's it, right? This is one example that maybe is not the right one, or maybe it is, and that's the early. Then you come up with the functional requirements, you start prototyping, that's the during, and in the end, the refinements is the after, right? So all the techniques I'm going to talk about are going to follow and are going to try to be fitted into one of those three stages, right? Again, disclaimer, many techniques can be suitable for more than one of those three stages. Right, depending, the technique we use and the different repertoire we have depends on this matrix, on this axis. On that corner, it will be just data. What we get if we launch our development and we track our users, that will be there. We have just plain data. And according to that, we can either design more research or we can even take some conclusions. On this, on the opposite part of the axis would be what the user tells you about whatever. So it can be much more qualitative. You're looking at what the user says and not what the user asks. But even that, as we will see, is useful in UX research. Just is the matter of the solution is a matter of combination. Right? I'm not going to stop into that. There are so many different techniques depending on what place of the X and Y axis you're placed. Right. So the early conceptualization, and I'm just going to talk about 6 different techniques. I'm going to go kind of fast, and I'm going to try to link them. And especially, I'm just going to try to give you some hints on how you can apply them to your day-to-day work. So, simple traffic analysis, right? You have a website or you have software. I know there are some people working on the e-health industry. So you have hello, yeah, come in. So you have people working in products already launched, and you put some logs and you get the data. And it's simple. That's a very good technique to spot where are the black holes. And to start getting some clues on where your problem is. The results, unless you have really modeled this data or tracked this data, unless you have done it very thoroughly, you should not rely solely in that, right? So that's an initial part. Again, you can do that just indexing your website in Google Analytics if you're whatever amateur, and there are other different tools free of charge that you can use. Okay, now the opposite, right? What you could be kind of the other extreme from the data analysis. How many people click on that specific button? How many people downloaded the instruction? On the opposite, you have ethnography, which is basically a researcher trying to mingle or try to observe a segment of users, a group of users, a user in a context. So that would be the opposite. And I'll tell you a very anecdote and a very interesting story that for the ones who have studied anthropology, maybe they're familiar, right? And that has not happened very long ago. That was maybe in the 70s. In India, there was this group of missionaries that were basically going all around the country, just handing out condoms in order to alleviate the problem of over demographics, of overpopulation. And they went, keep tracking 1 year, showing and handing out the condoms, and then they come the year after and they say they see that the population has doubled. So, you know, recording the data is like, okay, population has doubled. What happened? In the end, what they find out is that when they showed in those Indian villages how to use a condom, they use a stick. So people on those villages put the condom in a stick and they put it on the side of the bedroom. Are they stupid? It's like, no, man. You give us Jesus Christ, you give us, we put it around, and you say we're not going to have children, right? So this is a very extreme case. It's good to have to understand the symbols and the individual, collective traits of your target group, right? If you're talking about doctors, translators, people who want to stop to your e-commerce portal to buy books, you have to understand those traits, right? So that's why good combination of techniques is ideal. By the way, ethnography as such is not is a family of techniques. You know, it's almost a science that started in the late 19th century. But then, how you do things, I mean, what you actually do within this ethnography are basically three. Right? First one, observation. Like if you do not observe in a descriptive way what your users are doing, you might be lost, right? So very simple, right? You have people driving, holding the coffee cup, and someone comes with the idea, okay, why not a cat holder? In-depth interviews, right? And for that, there are simple hints, right? For the good in-depth interviews, people say there is the art of non-directionality, right? If I want to know about the user's family scheme, I might start talking about football, right? And I take some time, and then I say the hook, and then we get into the family stuff, for example. If I want to know about the user's perceptions towards gambling, I might start talking about football again, or whatever, right? So, regarding the in-depth interviews, to end up with design principles, the main hit is do not be frontal. Try to go around, get the trust of the person you are interviewing, and then is where you can get where the main and the valuable insights, right? Okay, and kind of a mixture of everything and the real kind of useful stuff, maybe for you, especially if you're talking about hardware, is the contextual inquiry. You want to see your user using your software, your hardware, interacting with your service. Because there are so many, as you see, there are so many variables that you have to see. And in the end, you have to spot where the main black holes, where the main bottlenecks are in order to design a better service, a better website, and so on, right? For example, very simple, that's also best practice in gaming industry, in video games, is that if the game does not allow me, it doesn't matter if it's a downloadable game or a web-based game. If the game doesn't allow me to turn off the sound embedded in it, sometimes, you know, I cannot listen to music, I will not play your game, right? So as simple as that. So you have to look at your users, saying, okay, I will set my radio program, my music, and then I'll play your game. So very simple stuff that comes from observation, somewhat of mingling or being around your user. Okay, persona. This is one of the deliveries UX researchers have in this early stage. According to the data, according to the observation, you kind of code. There are different ways: code it, compile it, different. You cross it, qualitative, quantitative, but you want to end up with a persona. Right? You want to end up with what you would call, that's not really technical, but whatever, like a user profile to say, okay, he's a person 60 years old, he's a retired, medium low income, he's a father, because you want to tell a story about someone, about one person. And that person can get you and can validate, approve or disapprove your initial hypothesis. It's like, will he use my website, or what can I do for someone like him to make, you know, to afford a smooth path into the whole user experience, right? And in the end, the ideal scenario is that you end up with either a use case, a scenario. There are different, even schools talking about different ways, but a tailored persona would be ideal. So you can segment your users into whatever, 2, 3, 4, and you describe what persona is and how it relates to your product. So whatever, the bargain seeker, so I only visit your website in order to see bargains, in order to see very good offers. I don't mind the time I waste, I just want very good price. Sometimes I just want exclusive stuff, and I don't mind paying for whatever, but it's exclusive. Whatever, like, or the rational buyer and say, okay, I want to know everything about the product before. So according to that, you're going to have to design for these guys. So your final layout, your final service, and in the end your final interaction should match these guys' needs, right? Okay, and finally, in this early stage, this card sorting. How many of you have heard of card sorting method? You, for sure. We used to work together. So card sorting basically is when you are not sure how to group things, you tell users to come to your place, you have them group them for you, right? Then there are many variations of how many users, whether users have to agree on the groupings and so on. But that's basically, you know, the primary seed of your information architecture can be set by these card sorting methods, right? So for each function, there is a card, and then you have to group them. Okay, are those health-related services? This contact, this information, help has to go to contact or has to go to home. Let your users have a try. So it's a very, very simple method that it is proven to be very, very effective in many cases, right? Okay, final remark. When you are observing, sorry for the quality of the picture, is not the best. This is a picture of a 1920s factory in Chicago. It's called nearby Chicago, called the Hawthorne. And these guys gave the work of a concept in sociology called the Hawthorne effect. So the workers of this factory, when they saw themselves that they were being recorded, even if they were for the good, they were not being to be watched over or vigilante or whatever. These guys just, of course, behave differently. So try to avoid that. It's not easy, but setting an enough immersive and enough trusted environment for your users, because otherwise you are going to intermediate, you're going to modify the setting of what you're seeing. So try to avoid that. There is no magic formula, just common sense. Just try to be immersive in the culture, try to build trust, and so on. And don't come with just taking notes. So it's just okay. So now UX research for the during, right? When you're prototyping, when you have kind of a skeleton of your service, of your product, and before you go into development phase, you want to give it a try to test it, right? So how good it is, how people can find stuff, and so on, right? An initial part, an initial technique could be A/B testing, right? This technique can be also useful for the aspect when you have already your service and you can run 2 different versions of your software and you can get the performance, the results, and then compare. Right? But it's good to have 2 designs at this stage and with a clear objective to say, okay, how fast can the user find the purchasing hyperlink, or how fast can the user make his mind about whatever. So you have two options, you just test it, you can use the usability traditional metrics like time to task, just success, error, and so on. I will talk about those metrics later. But that's simple. I mean, if it's more than 2 options, it's called multivariate testing, but it's basically the same. Okay, this is controversial, right? 5-second testing, right? That's as it sounds, right? This technique is basically showing your main layout or letting you use your product for 5 seconds, right? And then you remove it and you ask questions, right? Of course, this is only when you want to assess something that is even superficial, that you think that should hook people, that should appeal for attention, right? You don't use this technique for a very thoughtful insight, right? But basically, like if you're designing an e-commerce portal on books, you can really test, like show it 5 seconds, and what is this portal about? If it doesn't say that it's books, then you're failing. Because at least those 5 seconds are enough to have a very clear view that this website is about buying books or is about something, right? Or as well to assess the affordance, right? The first step, the start button, has to be seen in those 5 seconds, right? But nonetheless, this method is very much defended by one part of UX researchers and is very much despised by the other half. So. All right. Also, the first click and retesting, right? You can have it when you have those mockups, those prototypes. It's kind of people say that it's proven that if you get the user to click on the right side the first time, it's a backlash, you have 83% chances, 83% of users who click right on the first click will be the ones with the successful task overall. Half of the users who fail the first click, they will be prone to fail the whole task. When I say whole task, is on a usability testing to buy whatever, buy a book, to record a medical history, so on and so forth, right? So that's why it's kind of approved, it's kind of understood by the UX community that the first click, it is really important. A variation of that is the tree testing, right? When you want to assess not just the first one, but the click string, right? So if for a complicated task I need 4 clicks, if it's more than 1 or people have to backlash, imagine is chances we have that in the end the task is gonna be a failure, right? Just simple. By the way, it will be in the final slide like a takeaway, but for that there are free software, right? Look back up, Silverlight for Mac, and you can even do it with Skype, recording, sharing your screen and recording, and you can actually do this with your website and with your products.
How you can use inverted is a really nice JavaScript application which you can install it in the browser. Basically, it records all the clicks, and you can see a video of all the clicks that have been done in the
Yeah. Like for example, at work we use user Zoom, but that's you have to pay per month.
This one is free for 100 persons.
Okay. So there you have 3 options to really assess that, the architecture, the findability of things in your website. And finally, right? I think I'm going pretty fast. Yeah, that's good. What some people understand is like the real UX research, right? Which is when I have something fully functional, when it's already in production, I want to test it, and I want to see and assess different metrics, right? That can be done with users, or as well that can be done by us as experts. It's called like expert evaluation. I will start with the expert evaluation. Okay, how many of you have heard about the Nielsen heuristics? All right, you as well. And my colleagues, they are shy, but they know. All right, so in order to assess, here it's not about a product, it's really about a website. Proven variables that can be approved or disapproved to your website, right? So error prevention, okay, my system should prevent errors. Or error recovery, okay, if by any chance I'm maneuvering with a mobile phone, and just by chance I click on exit, and it doesn't ask me, are you sure you want to exit, right? That is really a lack of error recovery. So those statements are like public. This is kind of our standard. The ideal scenario is that to this standard, you add your own heuristics. That means the e-commerce ones, or if you're talking about different products like, again, e-health applications, you will have security, trust, and so on. So for each product, you should add your own heuristics. In a game, of course, it must be fun. You should have a flow. So that means not many interruptions. Friction should be there, right? Not too easy, not too, right? So, and that you can take it again and you can assess it, and you can. There are two kinds of usability testing experiments: the formative, the evaluation. Formative evaluation and summative. Formative is basically to spot the issues, and the summative ones is to give a score. Basically, if you are producing so many websites for different clients, maybe at the end you want to score them, right? Apart from really rearranging some things, you want to get some score, and also to get your normal, right? Your standard. A second part of the expert evaluation, of the heuristic evaluation, is the cognitive walkthrough, which is basically the same, but you only do the task that the users are meant to do. So you try to buy an airplane ticket, if your website is travel one. So you basically do what the user is meant to do. This is not beta testing, it shouldn't be, right? But I think the destiny of UX researchers sometimes is to serve as beta testers, but we shouldn't be like that, right? We should be really testing and assessing whether the user will feel comfortable, will see this link, will, in the end, be successful in the task, right? So that's basically the same, but task-based instead of based on variables. And finally, right, the usability testing, right? And I've got 3 issues, and I'm finishing. Okay, those are the open questions that UX researchers fight for, right, between us. And as everything in life, it really depends on how you look at the problem, right? When you're testing your product, are you talking about users? So do you want your users, or do you want your amigos, right? Do you want to grab anyone from the cafe? Do you want to grab your father and try to do the task? I mean, it depends, it really depends. If you really want to assess the interaction, you want to assess the first use, how will the first user react? Basically, anyone can do it, right? Anyone can be useful for that. But of course, if this is, again, a hospital software, and you want to test the usability, interaction is a good start, but maybe you want a doctor, you want someone who is familiar with the lingo, with the language, with the task in the end, and so on. Right? Second one is whether to do measure metrics or think aloud. Think aloud is basically having the user completing the task and talking what he thinks, basically what problems he has, what he doesn't understand, and those problems, this is basically to spot problems, right? Okay, I don't understand, and then you want to try it again, you know, in a further iterative process and so on, but no metrics. And the second, the first one is whether you want to measure metrics, like time on task, right? I want to see whether in this new design, user is taking less time to buy a ticket or to buy a book or to record a medical history. I'm using the same example, right? Related to this, the third controversy is whether you should do it in a lab where you say that you control all variables, or you do it in a hallway as coaching the users to say, hey, look, I'll show you something, or please do this, I cannot tell you, I can tell you, whatever. Right? Of course, different techniques are normally suitable for different results. See, so those are the three main issues to remark on usability testing. Okay, main metrics, right? This is actually taken from one of my reports, so I didn't have time to make it more beautiful. But basically, conversion rate, that's really the keyword, right? How do you find conversion? When the user registers to a service, when the user buys something, or when the user just comes back maybe 10 times in the month. That's up to you, to your objective, right? Life objective, whatever, business objectives, whatever. Success rate. Simple, this is the most simple task, metric, but you will be surprised how useful it is to ask for it. That means whether the user is able to complete the task, just that. You assume, okay, the user might have problems, might take some time, but of course the user is gonna complete the task. Well, I'm still to see usability testing where the success rate is 100%. So, time on task, I said it before, efficiency is how many resources, time, that's basically time, does the user employ to accomplish the task, right? So, to buy a ticket, I take 15 minutes, maybe efficiency is not high, right? So that's why metrics might be good. And then perceived satisfaction and task easiness, that is also controversial because that's asked to the user. So the user tells you it's easy, it's not, and some researchers do not like questions saying the user. They want to see the user, they want to observe the user, and they want to filter everything the user says or does, right? So that's basically it. Okay, the return on input, on investment, right? On input, if it's your personal project, right? It doesn't have to be just for money. Or return of investment if you're talking about a commercial business. Apart from there are many infographics saying about how for each dollar invested into research, you might get a turnover of 100 just for improving usability, avoiding further errors, avoiding development time, blah, blah, blah. But at least that's basic, right? As you are closer to the development phase, the cost of redesigning what you have is gonna tend to be higher. So if the functional specs, if the functional specification, and the design in general is right from the moment of that it comes to the development department or to someone who start coding, you're gonna save a lot of time and effort. And in the end, the usability, the proving or disapproving hypothesis can be a matter of labels. So you have the architecture right, the layout right, and maybe you want to test whether info is better to help, or the other way around, right? So basically things that are very easy to change, right? So, because normally that's a problem. In the end, the usability expert says, okay, usability is very bad, users are not successful in the task and so on. You have to redesign everything. And you see after maybe weeks of development, maybe it's not testing. And that's basically I mean, that's the main takeaway. If you want to, if you're interested in basically in applying this to your product, to your whatever, those are, I would say, I selected like the main takeaway, right? In software, we said, right, look back up or the envision, maybe you are familiar with that. You can upload graphic wireframes and make them clickable, so that's very good. And that's also, everything is free, right? Silver back for iPhone, Skype. I mean, we've had very good experience and results from just using Skype. Because sometimes, you know, you're not Amazon, right? The amount of what you get from a usability test sometimes is really spotting the issues and improving a bit the experience, right? You don't want to see how many seconds is the user taking for completing the task, right? So that's why, you know, Skype is a very good software. Regarding books, well, that is the only exception that you have to pay. The first one, any book of Steve Krug, it has to, right? They Don't Make Me Think, the famous one, and the rocket surgery made for, that's basically how to do guerrilla testing, guerrilla usability testing. It's very good, and it's a world-leading master of this field. And secondly, for me, this is the best practical guide. It's for free. You can get it online. You just need to subscribe to the XP. And it's the practical UX exercise for the enterprise. That, for me, is what I go back often to do that.
Is this XP or UXP?
UXP, that's a mistake, yeah. The sites, basically, Norman Nielsen, Jeff Sauro, and UX Matters. You know, those three that you will get plenty of information. And the videos, well, any of Jacob Nielsen, there are 2 or 3 very useful because they are very simple, right? They really enlighten you to start usability research. And finally, a meetup like this by Don Norman, right? Who is also kind of the father of this kind of technique, right? And that's all from my side. I'm just happy to help. Any questions you have now or later, whatever, I'm here. So thank you very much for your time. Yeah, any questions? We can finish. Yeah.
We're mentioning personal, but this is also a pretty tricky question and a tricky topic in US web. So the question is, how do you evaluate on personas during the whole process? Because you start with some assumptions, right?
Yeah.
And later, how do you evaluate the personas? How does it change the whole process of design? And how does it influence, like, what do you do next? I mean, besides setting the task.
Yeah, that's a very political question. When I say political, because technique doesn't have the answer, but team management or project management might have it. I don't know if you know what I'm getting. Okay, I'm still to see, I mean, working 6 years as a UX researcher in different kind of commercial and more research and development projects for disabled people with these guys and so on. I'm still yet to see a proper persona setting made that it never changed. You're right, it always kind of changes. How do you solve that problem? It depends on how much you change your persona, right? If in the end you move, okay, I'll give you a very tangible example. When you design a software or a new software, whatever, that should include new users, but at the same time, of course, management doesn't want you to leave or to get rid of your existing user base. That is a common problem you're going to face in many things. Sorry? Exactly. You say, no, we want new users, and we want to have a system that really welcomes the new user and is very intuitive for new users to come. And that implies you have a persona, the new user might be this kind of trend, whatever. And that has design implications, right? That means you have to simplify many things, right? You might even be redundant with information, you might even get rid of some junk, right? But management tells you no, because existing users like this part, whatever, right? This widget, right? Have you solved that? These people skills, this project management, in the end, is not on the hands of the UX person. I don't know if I answered your question, but I don't have the answer. It's the whole project management thing that has it. Maybe you can avoid some conflict if, since the project briefing, you state clear that you cannot serve God and the devil at the same time. You have to negotiate in between both, right? So, so beer time.
Well, anyways, thank you very much, Victor. No questions? You offer to help someone?
Yeah, we said that, I don't know if you are launching your whatever, right? Any kind of service website. If you want to bring it here, and between all of us, we can do some kind of usability, like hands-on, really hands-on, not this, onto this. And I offer my help, and we can do it in this scheme, you know, in the same session. Maybe think about it, and you can tell us. Yeah.
So you guys know, if you want to do any kind of workshop that involves have some help directing and usability research over your own website, just call me and I will get in touch with him and we can organize something. Probably the people from Malaga will be willing to even give us the team, the tables, but maybe we can also bring our laptops or whatever, however you feel right. And now, before the years, let's say a few more things about Front Malaga. Well, this is here, open for everyone, so if anyone has anything to say, anyone wants to give a talk about anything that is related with design, with usability, with development, please send an email, tell me personally, and I will try to organize something. I would really like to organize a workshop. In fact, I am willing to help out with the workshop. So if you are thinking about something like giving a workshop, how to use React, and you have the energy to do it, well, React is just an example, I will be able to help you. I am not able to do it by myself in the entirety, but if you want to do something in that direction, please come and tell me. Then more things. Well, that is about Front Malaga. Finally, at the very end of the talk, we let people who are looking for someone to hire someone. So if anybody is looking for a designer, a developer, you were looking.
Not me, but I can tell you that there are open places for front-end developers at the workshop. What it used to be a Live Live. Maybe you're more familiar with that. So if you're interested, just browse the website, or maybe just contact me and I can directly take you or to the person who is hiring.
Anyone over here looking for more colleagues or something? You are free to say. Hey, you can spam me, please. No, it's just a service, because the thing is that there are people who also want to improve, so that's it. Well, then that's pretty much it. So if anyone has any suggestion for next month, just tell me. If anyone wants a proposal for next month, just tell me. If nobody wants, well, either Eva or me will come with something from our under sleep. Let's drink beer, please.